It all began on a quiet Tuesday morning in early spring. The kind of morning where the dew still clings to the grass and the sound of distant lawnmowers fills the air like suburban white noise. I had just finished my coffee when I saw it. A crisp white envelope tucked into my mailbox, stamped with the bold blue logo of the Oak Ridge Meadows Homeowners Association. At first, I thought it was another generic reminder about recycling schedules or a community potluck. But when I tore it open and began reading, my stomach sank. It was an official notice of violation. The offense? Unapproved decorative lawn fixtures. Specifically, my garden gnomes. Those gnomes had been standing quietly by my flower beds for years. A few were gifts from friends. Others I'd collected from garage sales and road trips. There was the fisherman with a tiny rod, the one reading a book beneath a mushroom, and even the small one pushing a miniature wheelbarrow. They weren't gaudy or overwhelming, just cheerful reminders of a hobby that brought me peace. But apparently to the HOA president, Carol Evans, they were unsightly clutter that disrupted the community's visual harmony. The letter demanded that I remove all unapproved lawn ornaments within 10 days or face daily fines of $50. It even included a line about potential legal action for noncompliance. The words were cold, bureaucratic, and oddly personal at the same time. I folded the letter slowly and stood by the window, staring out at my small, colorful front yard. Everything looked perfect to me. The trimmed hedges, the neat flower borders, and the little gnomes peeking out with their painted smiles. But apparently, someone had taken offense. I knew it had to be Carol. She lived 3 houses down and had been HOA president for as long as anyone could remember. She was the kind of woman who measured grass heights and photographed trash cans left out overnight. Her yard was always a copy-paste version of every other approved home. White shutters, beige mulch, and not a single hint of personality. Over the next few days, I noticed her walking her small dog past my house more often, pausing to glance disapprovingly at the gnomes. Sometimes she'd take out her phone and snap pictures. Each time I felt a mixture of irritation and disbelief. How could someone care so much about gnomes? Still, I didn't react. Not yet. I spent that week researching HOA bylaws, property codes, and decorative ordinances. I dug through public documents late into the night, learning more about Section 8B aesthetic standards than I ever wanted to know, and that's when I found it. A single line buried deep in the text. It said that decorative features consistent with artistic or cultural expression shall not be subject to removal, provided they adhere to height and safety standards. Artistic expression. That was my loophole. My gnomes weren't just ornaments. They were art installations. If I could prove that, the HOA couldn't touch them. The idea hit me like a spark. What if I didn't just fight the HOA? What if I turned my entire front yard into something so creative, so perfectly within the rules, that they couldn't do a single thing about it? That night, I took a long walk around the neighborhood. Every yard looked the same. Identical hedges, approved plants, neutral paint. The sameness was suffocating. The thought of turning my little corner of suburbia into something vibrant suddenly felt like a mission. I began sketching plans. Not just a few gnomes, but a full legal wonderland. A whimsical, rule-abiding, art-driven masterpiece that would make every passerby stop and stare. I had 10 days to remove the gnomes. Instead, I decided to spend those 10 days transforming my entire front yard. When the deadline arrived, I was ready. As the sun rose that morning, Carol Evans made her usual rounds with her clipboard. I watched from my window as she stopped in front of my house. Her jaw practically dropped. Where there had once been a simple garden with a few gnomes, there now stood an elaborate, fully documented art exhibit. Each gnome was positioned on a small pedestal, labeled with a tiny plaque describing its symbolic meaning. The fisherman represented patience. The one reading a book symbolized wisdom. Even the little one pushing the wheelbarrow stood for diligence. Everything was meticulously clean, organized, and, most importantly, legal. Carol stood there for nearly a full minute, speechless. Then she scribbled something furiously on her clipboard and stormed off. I smiled. The game had just begun, because what she didn't know was that this was only the beginning. The legal wonderland was just getting started, and soon, the entire neighborhood would be talking. As night fell, my garden lights flickered on, illuminating each gnome like a tiny guardian of freedom. And somewhere, 3 houses down, I could almost feel Carol seething. The war between creativity and control had officially begun.